The officer thought it was just another routine patrol near the abandoned train route. A quiet stretch of tracks nobody used anymore. But suddenly, his K9 partner Thor stopped dead in his tracks. The German shepherd's ears shot forward, his body stiffened, and a deep growl vibrated through his chest. "Thor? What is it, boy?" Miller asked. Thor didn't answer. Before Officer Miller could react, Thor bolted toward the tracks, barking with a desperation Miller had never heard before. Miller chased him, breath burning his chest, but nothing could have prepared him for the sight waiting up ahead. Then he saw her, a tiny girl, no older than 4, sat on the cold steel rail, her wrist tied tightly behind her back, tears streaming down her dirt-covered cheeks. And behind her, just a few hundred meters down the line, the faint rumble of an approaching train grew louder and louder. Thor barked wildly, circling her, refusing to back away. "Officer." Miller froze. Who would do something like this? And the truth behind it was more horrifying than anyone expected. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The afternoon sun hung low over the old Rylard as Officer Miller walked his usual patrol route. The area was mostly abandoned now. Rusted tracks, overgrown weeds, and distant echoes of trains that rarely passed anymore. Beside him trotted Thor, his loyal K9 partner, sniffing casually as if nothing was out of the ordinary until suddenly everything changed. Thor stopped mid-step, his ears shot forward, his muscles locked tight. Officer Miller frowned. "Thor, what is it, boy?" But the German shepherd didn't respond. Instead, he let out a low, trembling growl, one Miller had never heard from him before. And then, without warning, Thor bolted. "Thor, heel!" Miller shouted, but the dog was already sprinting across the gravel, barking with a desperation that sent chills racing up Miller's spine. Miller broke into a run, his boots pounding the ground as he struggled to keep up. Thor wasn't just reacting. He was leading him somewhere, guiding him with laser-sharp focus. The dog leaped over a fallen log, veered sharply left, and charged straight toward the main track. Miller felt panic rise in his chest. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and Thor was running like a life depended on it because one did. Thor skidded to a stop beside the tracks, gravel scattering beneath his paws. His barks grew sharper, frantic, echoing down the empty rail line. Officer Miller finally caught up, breath heavy, sweat trickling down his neck. "Thor, what is it?" Then he saw her. A tiny girl, no older than 4, sat on the cold steel rail, her wrist tied brutally behind her back with thick rope. Her little dress was dusty and torn, her face stray with tears. She tried to scream, but only choked sobs came out as she struggled helplessly. Miller's heart dropped to his stomach. "Oh my God!" The girl was shaking violently, her eyes wide with terror. Thor immediately circled her, placing his body between her and the oncoming tracks as if shielding her from something she couldn't even see yet. Then Miller heard it, a faint rumble. He looked up and his blood ran ice cold. Far down the track, a train's headlights glowed in the distance. The low growl of its engine rolled through the air, getting louder, closer. "Dispatch, this is Officer Miller," he shouted into his radio, voice breaking. "Child on the tracks. Tied. Train approaching. I need immediate backup." Thor barked at the rails, then back at Miller, urgency burning in his eyes. There was no time. If they didn't act now, the train would reach her first. The rumble of the approaching train grew louder, deep, rhythmic, terrifying. Officer Miller's pulse pounded in his ears as he sprinted toward the little girl. Thor stayed glued to her side, barking furiously, warning Miller and the world that they were running out of time. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here," Miller shouted, dropping to his knees beside her. The girl flinched at the sound of the train, horn blasting in the distance. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "Help, please." Miller's hands shook as he pulled at the rope. It was tight, too tight. Multiple knots, twisted together with deliberate precision. Whoever tied her had meant for her to stay there. "Come on, come on," he muttered, fingers scrambling. Thor suddenly spun around, barking down the tracks with absolute panic. The train was close enough now that the rails vibrated beneath them. Dust trembled off the wooden beams. Miller's breath caught in his throat. They had seconds. He dug his fingers deeper into the rope, ignoring the burn on his skin. As he ripped, pulled, tore, the rope loosened. He scooped the girl into his arms just as the train rounded the bend, horns screaming. "Thor, move!" Miller yelled. The K9 leaped aside, Miller diving off the tracks with the little girl clutched against his chest. The train thundered past behind them, missing them by mere seconds. The ground still vibrated from the passing train as Officer Miller cradled the sobbing girl in his arms. Thor stayed pressed against her, whining softly, nudging her cheek, as if reassuring her she was finally safe. Miller gently set her down on the grass, checking her wrists. Red, bruised, rope burned. "Who did this to you, sweetheart?" he asked softly. The girl sniffled, pointing weakly toward the woods. "A man," he said. "Don't scream." Thor's ears perked instantly. Miller followed the girl's trembling gesture and noticed something he hadn't seen before. Footprints, fresh ones, leading away from the tracks and vanishing into the tall grass. Then Thor moved. He lowered his head, sniffing the dirt, tracing a scent with laser focus. Miller watched him circle the area until he stopped near an old wooden post. Something was wedged behind it. Miller pulled it free. A piece of rope, same type, same knots, but this one cut at the end as if someone had sliced it in a hurry. Thor growled low. Miller felt a chill crawl up his spine. Whoever tied the girl here didn't have time to finish the job. Thor must have interrupted them earlier before Miller even arrived. He checked the dirt again. Tire tracks leading deeper into the trees. Miller, radio dispatch. Suspect fled the scene. We have evidence of vehicle movement heading east. Thor barked. Short, sharp, urgent. He wasn't just alerting. He had the scent, and he was ready to hunt. Thor shot forward the moment Officer Miller gave the command. His body low, nose locked on the scent trail, weaving into the woods. Branches snapped under Miller's boots as he chased behind the canine, adrenaline surging through him. The forest was dense, quiet, and unsettling, too quiet for someone who had just attempted something so horrific. Up ahead, Thor growled, tail stiff, barking ferociously at a cluster of abandoned sheds. Miller approached, cautiously, hand on his weapon. Thor, easy, show me. The dog darted to the left, stopping at a half-open door. He scratched it violently, teeth bared. Miller pushed the door open and froze. Inside were signs of someone living there recently, a makeshift bed, empty, food cans, and a small table littered with rope fibers, the same rope used on the girl. Even worse, a map of nearby neighborhoods lay pinned to the wall, with several parks circled in red. Dear God, Miller whispered. This wasn't a random attack. It was planned. Thor suddenly barked at the back window. Miller turned just in time to see a shadowy figure sprinting through the trees. Stop! Police! Miller yelled, bursting after him, but Thor was faster. He tore across the forest floor, closing the gap with terrifying speed, determined to catch the monster who left a little girl to die. And this time, Thor wasn't letting anyone escape. The suspect barely made it 50 yards before Thor launched himself forward, tackling him to the ground with a force that shook the forest floor. Miller arrived. Seconds later, cuffs ready, breath burning in his lungs. You're under arrest, he growled, hauling the man up by his jacket. You tried to kill a child. The suspect didn't speak. He didn't have to. The evidence spoke for him. Back at the tracks, paramedics wrapped the little girl in a warm blanket. When she saw Thor return, she reached out with trembling hands. Doggy, you saved me, she whispered. Thor lowered his head gently into her arms, his tail wagging for the first time that day. Officer Miller knelt beside her. He didn't just save you, he said, softly. He led us straight to the man who hurt you. You're safe now because of him. As the girl's parents arrived, sobbing with relief, they hugged Thor, with gratitude deeper than words. Reporters rushed to capture the moment. The department later awarded Thor the highest K-9 honor for bravery. But Thor didn't care about medals. All he cared about was that little girl alive, safe, and smiling again. And the world would never forget the K-9, who outran a train to save a